Hi, my name's Joe Hardwick. I'm a lecturer in French here at UQ and I teach courses in French language, literature, cinema and cultural studies. So how have I used Flipgrid for my in-class activities? It's a number of different ways. Probably the easiest way is a kind of getting to know you exercise for the students because I teach largely in language or language and culture classes that have relatively small enrolments, but the students don't necessarily know each other and we don't necessarily know them. So there's always an exercise at the start of semester. So for example, in one of our courses, third year advanced French course where we combine the study of literature with argumentation skills. And at the start of semester, we get students to do a quick 90-second Flipgrid video introducing themselves, and they have to tell us about their favourite book or their favourite genre of literature in French.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Joe Hardwick. Je suis le coordinateur de Friend 3355 ce semestre. Et aujourd'hui, j'aimerais bien vous parler un tout petit peu de mes goûts littéraires.
And what's great about that is that, well, first of all, we're getting to know about their interests. We're getting to know where there might be vocabulary problems because words for genres are not necessarily the same in French and English. And they're getting to know each other as well because the students can look at each other's Flipgrid videos and we're getting to know them. And it's actually been really important over the last couple of years where we've had students in masks for a lot of the time when they're in the class. So we don't necessarily, last couple of years, we haven't necessarily seen their faces. So Flipgrid actually allowed us to see our students' faces. And one of the things that I really like is that nearly all of them do it in somewhere in the home, in their bedroom, in their study, on a veranda, possibly even in a car. So you kind of get, I think the students are really at home doing it because they're in their own space. And you're also getting an idea of their personality at the same time. And literature, we have a few assessment items in the course of the semester depending on the book that the students are reading at the time, and we give them a controversial topic that's somehow linked to the book that they're reading, as well as current debates going on in that space. So for example, in the last couple of years, students have read a book called The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir, as well as Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, and these are books that talk about marriage and that talk about adultery and the difficulties of marriage, etc. And it's linked to a debate with students about whether marriage is outdated at the moment. And so we get students into different groups, and so in a group of 6, say, the first student will have a 3-minute Flipgrid video in which they have to argue their point, ranking reference to the book or to the text that we've studied in class, and using the connectors in the argumentation strategies that we've actually been teaching in class. And then the next student comes along and they have to respond to that first student, and so on. And it's kind of much more informal. So there's two parts to the exercise. The first part is the Flipgrid exercise, so where they react to each other more or less individually, I guess. But then they have to do a reflective essay a week later where they have to change registers, where it has to have a proper essay structure, where they have to reference each other in their videos and sort of collate information from the different videos and argue that point. And they have to argue both sides before coming to their own conclusion. And that's worked really well, actually. Sometimes we've had to prompt the first student to post their video because obviously you need someone to post something that the others can react to. But of course they have to go then and look at each other's videos. So they know that their videos are being looked at. I think they really take to this exercise because they're expressing their own opinion in French. They're often on topics that are relevant in Australia as well. It's been an exercise that's worked really well. Because it's relatively recent, we haven't had any major feedback, negative or positive. One of my colleagues mentioned that one of my students had said to her that she needed to do her TikTok. So students actually think of this as a kind of TikTok exercise. I think they take to it really easily. There have been relatively few technical problems. It's fairly easy to do. They don't like what they've done, they can erase it very quickly and do it again. So I think for this generation in particular, it really is something that they don't really think twice about too much. They seem very relaxed. It's a little bit, I guess, in a sense like when during COVID we had to have all of our assessment on Zoom, and we suddenly found that students were much more relaxed doing their oral assessments on Zoom rather than in person with 2 people in front of them in the same room. There's something about it, I think, that where they can control the environment that actually makes them a lot more comfortable, I suspect. There really have been much fewer problems, I think, with Flipgrid than other platforms. It's relatively easy. Probably the hardest thing from a lecturer's perspective is putting the link up on Blackboard, embedding the link. That process, you've got to be quite precise. But it's also quite fun. You can choose your little Giphy to put on there. For students, that's related to what you're doing. So students kind of appreciate it that well. There's a kind of slight fun edge to Flipgrid that I think is good. And it really is a very good kind of getting to know you tool as well as an assessment tool.